The vast Atlantic Ocean, feared by mariners as the edge of the earth where monsters dwell. And one intrepid explorer who dared to sail west into that abyss, pioneering a route to a new world that would forever transform two continents. He took his first steps onto a new world beach thinking he had circumnavigated the globe to Asia. Little did he know this land was an entirely undiscovered continent, and his arrival would begin an epochal connection between Europe and the Americas. This is the story of Christopher Columbus and his world-changing voyages that unleashed the age of discovery. Before we start our exploration, make sure you subscribe the Macula and hit bell icon because our journey has just begun. Christopher Columbus has endured as one of history's most renowned explorers, known for launching the first European voyages to the Americas in 1492. Though Viking navigators reached North America centuries earlier, Columbus' discovery led to the continents being opened up to major European exploration and colonization. His daring journey westward in search of a new route to Asia instead uncovered the new world for the old world. While controversial for his treatment of indigenous peoples, there is no denying the immense impact Columbus' historic seafaring had on the course of world history. Join me as we dive into Columbus' background, the lead-up to his famous first voyage, the revolutionary expeditions that followed, and the long-term global reverberations of his seminal discovery. First, we will try to look into Columbus' early life and formation of his exploratory ambitions. Christopher Columbus was born in the port city of Genoa, Italy around 1451. Little detail is known about his childhood and early life. As the son of a wool weaver, it's believed Columbus first went to sea at age 14, starting a long maritime career that would shape his ambitions as an explorer. For over a decade, Columbus sailed on Genoese, Portuguese, and other trading ships around the Mediterranean. He gained vital nautical experience and built connections with merchants on voyages around the Iberian Peninsula, North Africa, and likely as far north as England. After relocating to Lisbon in his 20s, Columbus expanded his seafaring into the Atlantic. He went on expeditions down the western coast of Africa, at the time the edge of European maritime exploration. These voyages searching for a route to the rich spice trading centers of the Indian Ocean stoked Columbus' interest in discovering new oceanic routes. Inspiration also came from tales of the legendary Venetian explorer Marco Polo, which Columbus read with great interest. His zeal for exploration grew steadily. A pivotal idea had crystallized in Columbus' mind: he could reach Asia by sailing directly west across the Atlantic instead of south and east around Africa. This route could open up a massive new path for spice trade and spread Christianity. He drew confidence from calculations by Renaissance astronomers that the globe was much smaller than its actual size. To manifest his radical vision, Columbus would need patrons willing to finance such a risky expedition into the unknown western seas. Securing backing for the voyage and departing Spain. Columbus first proposed his westward voyage to King John II of Portugal in 1485. The king submitted Columbus' plan to a committee of scholars, who rejected his incorrect distance estimates to Asia. Some believe Portuguese sailors had already made clandestine trips west to scout the route, realizing Columbus underestimated the journey length. Columbus moved to Spain to find support for his proposed expedition. He spent over 5 years unsuccessfully petitioning Spanish royalty, facing opposition from court advisors who also doubted his plans. Ferdinand and Isabella were embroiled in a war with Granada, and had limited resources to fund speculative voyages. After years of waiting, opportunity finally came when the Spanish monarchs defeated Granada in 1492. A desperate Columbus agreed to finance part of the voyage himself if need be. Swayed by his determination, Ferdinand and Isabella approved his voyage in April 1492. They promised Columbus titles, governorship of new lands discovered, and 10% of the riches found. Columbus worked swiftly to acquire and outfit 3 small but sturdy ships, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. Supplies were gathered, crews hired with promises of riches, and permissions acquired. On August 3, 1492, with about 90 men aboard, Columbus' small flotilla finally set sail from Palos, Spain. The historic voyage to undiscovered lands had commenced after years of setbacks and uncertainty. The fleet departed Spain and stopped in the Canary Islands before sailing into the open Atlantic on September 6. The journey proved difficult, with worrisome signs like changed winds and magnetic compass variations suggesting they had entered uncharted territory. After over 5 weeks without sight of land, with crew morale sinking, birds sighted on October 7 hinted land was nearing. In the fateful early hours of October 12, 1492, land was sighted in the moonlight, an island in the present-day Bahamas Columbus christened San Salvador. Over the next days, he explored other islands like Cuba, believing he had reached Asia. He met indigenous Taino people, traded trinkets for gold, and claimed the lands for Spain. After 2 months cruising the Caribbean, Columbus' flagship Santa Maria was wrecked on Hispaniola. He was forced to leave crew behind with instructions to found a settlement named La Navidad. On January 15, 1493, the rest of Columbus' men completed their first groundbreaking voyage by returning to Spain aboard the Nina and Pinta. Though Columbus was mistaken about reaching Asia, word of his discoveries astonished Europe. Let's discuss later expeditions and searching for a passage to the Indian Ocean. Columbus would make 3 more westward voyages from Spain in the following decade, attempting to expand and secure Spanish claims in these New World lands he believed were part of the Indies. In September 1493, his second expedition comprising 17 ships and 1,200 men sailed to establish a permanent colony on Hispaniola. However, Columbus found the La Navidad settlement destroyed after encroaching on indigenous people. He founded a new colony and continued exploring, including visiting Puerto Rico and other Caribbean islands. On his third voyage in 1498, Columbus reached Trinidad and the mainland of South America near Venezuela. But he was arrested by a Spanish governor sent to investigate previous colonization complaints, and sent back to Spain in chains. He was freed after Ferdinand and Isabella soon overturned his arrest. After being restored to favor, Columbus made a fourth and final voyage in 1502 to 1504. He fruitlessly cruised the Caribbean searching for a strait connecting to the Indian Ocean, before having to beach his worn-out ships in Jamaica. Columbus and his men were stranded over a year before being rescued and returning home. Despite 4 groundbreaking voyages, Columbus died in 1506, still believing he had mainly reached islands off East Asia, not realizing the true enormity of his discovery. Possession of these New World lands would soon ignite major competition between Spain and Portugal. Here comes the global legacy and impacts of Columbus expeditions. While billions today learn Columbus discovered America, this ignores indigenous peoples who inhabited the continents for millennia. But Columbus' first expedition undeniably marked the bridging of the old and new worlds. Expeditions by other European explorers proliferated, extensively mapping the Americas and establishing settlements. The Columbian exchange brought New World crops like potatoes, tomatoes, and corn back to Europe, profoundly altering global agriculture and diets. Horses, sugarcane, and other species introduced to the Americas also had huge ecological and cultural impacts. For native peoples, Columbus' arrival brought devastating disease epidemics and expansion of the transatlantic slave trade. Spain amassed a vast colonial empire in the Americas in the wake of Columbus' discovery. From conquistadors warring for Aztec and Incan gold to Christian missionaries, the Spanish sought to subjugate and convert Native Americans. Thousands of indigenous cultures were ravaged and suppressed after encountering Columbus' expedition, which opened the floodgates of European colonization. Debate continues today over whether Columbus should be revered as a skillful navigator or condemned for exploitation that fueled the colonization and decimation of native peoples. But there is no question his voyage ranks among the most significant events in changing the trajectory of world history. The daring seafarer who defied the Atlantic ignited a seminal encounter that connected civilizations and indelibly altered the modern world. So, Christopher Columbus endures as one of history's most influential explorers, though also one of its more controversial. Though mistaken in his geography, Columbus' daring gamble to cross the Atlantic opened up an entire new world. The ensuing colonization had horrific consequences for indigenous peoples, yet also connected civilizations that had been separated for eons. Columbus' groundbreaking expeditions allowed the mapping, plundering, and settlement of two continents previously unknown to Europeans. His seminal voyage mothered a new epoch in the mingling of societies. Centuries on, the immense global impacts unleashed by Columbus' small flotilla still astound us. Though his quest was motivated more by ambition than altruism, Columbus' bravery as a navigator and tenacity overcame years of setbacks to find his place in history. His answer to the ocean's siren call of exploration resonates as one of humanity's influential feats of aspiration and audacious discovery.